You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Hristodoulou.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I'm Ethan Hristodoulou, and today I'm coming at you guys with a read and react video. Haven't done one of these in a little bit, so glad to be able to get back to doing something like this. As the NFL trade deadline draws near, we're going to start seeing some players get moved, and one team in particular, the Carolina Panthers, is starting to make some noise in a sell-off, and that is coming off of the heels of the big trade that happened last night between them and the San Francisco 49ers, moving running back Christian McCaffrey. We're going to break this down a little bit here and kind of unpack the whole thing. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and my Panthers fans, my 49ers fans, how are you feeling about this trade right now? Things not looking too great over in Carolina. It's looking like a sell-off for the 49ers. It looks like they're really going all in on the team that they have around Jimmy Garoppolo and that offense there. So let me know how y'all feeling. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. But diving into it, Ari Mirov was the first one from My Sports Update on Twitter. If you don't know who Ari Mirov is, that is who My Sports Update is. But he was the first one to tweet it out. I don't necessarily know if it happened during the end or after the end of Thursday night's football. I went to bed before the game was over, and I've got to say, when I woke up to this at, I was like, 4 o'clock in the morning or so when I got up for work, I was very surprised to see this trade go down. I knew that something like this was probably going to be coming. There was a lot of trade rumors regarding McCaffrey, but to see it go down last night kind of out of nowhere where there was no real, there's no teams really picking up steam or anything like that. I feel like, there was not a lot of focus on the 49ers in this whole deal, and it just kind of popped out of nowhere that San Francisco made this trade happen. But the 49ers are getting Christian McCaffrey, and it looks like 4 picks altogether for the Carolina Panthers. For 2023, they are getting a second round, a third round, and a fourth round. And then in 2024, they're netting themselves a 5th round selection. So a pretty decent haul for their running back, who has dealt with some injuries the last few years, has been healthy for the majority of this year as well, and looking fairly productive when the ball was being brought in his direction. So there's a lot to really look at this. Now, from the Carolina Panthers perspective, it's very clear now they're in rebuild mode, and it looks like there's a sell-off going on as well. We saw Robbie Anderson get traded immediately following Sunday's debacle between him and interim head coach Steve Wilks. The trade goes down Monday, and then from there, obviously just a few days later, Christian McCaffrey is now being moved as well. I'm still seeing rumors about Brian Burns being a potential trade possibility as well, and I'm curious what other names might be out there for the Panthers. If I would have to assume that they're at the very least listening to calls. A Brian Burns trade, would probably take more than what they got from McCaffrey, as he is a stud, and you can't really find premier guys like him at his position too often available. So I would expect that if he's going to be moved, you're probably looking at least at 1 first-round pick. And from what I've read, a lot of people think even multiple first-round selections. But there's also reports that the Panthers might not even be interested in moving him. So we'll see. But it's very interesting. At this point, Carolina's in full rebuild. I'm curious what happens this Sunday with quarterback situation. Are we going to see Sam Darnold? And then will Baker Mayfield come back into the fold later on? What happens with Baker Mayfield being in Carolina? They obviously traded for him and didn't give up a lot, and they basically recouped it with this Christian McCaffrey trade. So they go from only having 4 selections back up to the 7 selections for this coming draft class. It's very apparent that the Carolina Panthers now are just looking towards the future and trying to figure themselves out. And with that in mind, I don't really expect a ton of wins coming Carolina's way, moving on from key players like Robbie Anderson and Christian McCaffrey. This is definitely going to be more of a looking in the top 5 of the draft and who's going to be available type of year. Whereas when you look at for the 49ers, talk about a splash play for a team that lost their starting quarterback to injury in Trey Lance and are now back with their old starting quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, in a scenario that honestly I cannot believe worked out for them in the end. Everyone was talking about, having Jimmy G waiting in the wings and then Trey Lance ultimately going down with an injury and that problem kind of solving itself for a year. Crazy stuff altogether, and now you have Jimmy Garoppolo, and you have this offense with some really good talent. Trent Williams has been out for a little bit, but it sounds like he might be able to come back as soon as maybe this week, if not, maybe like next week. He's listed as questionable, so that's a good sign considering where he's been the last few weeks with his injury. You also have to look at, you have Deebo Samuel over there, Brandon Ayuk, Jeff Wilson has even been looking really good, and now you're going to insert Christian McCaffrey. I know that like the 49ers have been looking for a true running back one the last few years, and they've gotten a lot of production out of a lot of random guys here and there. You obviously had Elijah Mitchell as somebody else as well who was popping off last year. So you have to wonder, are the 49ers, they must be going all in for one more go with Jimmy Garoppolo, which is a crazy thing to think about. And I'm curious if this was a move San Francisco makes, if Trey Lance is still in the fold and Trey Lance is still playing. You have to believe so, right? I mean, if you're willing to give Jimmy Garoppolo another piece like this to try to push yourself over the edge and get yourself into the Super Bowl again, that this has to be something that maybe they would have thought about initially, or maybe this is something that they've been keyed in on for a while now, and watching things unfold in Carolina made them more apt to make this move. But I mean, you have to think at this point, the 49ers, they're all in, and in a wide open NFC West, this is a massive move for them. It's a massive move for them. Now, it kind of helps you with the issue that Deebo Samuel had with his playing time last year, and now you really don't have to worry about having Deebo Samuel do any sort of type of running back related type of things. You can have him be a sole wide receiver, and you can have Christian McCaffrey as the guy you're using out of the backfield as your versatile weapon, because when he's healthy, he can run and catch the football with the best of them. He is one of the craziest dual threat guys when healthy in the league. So that solves that issue. And now you just have to think, well, at this point, what happens with Trey Lance now? What happens if the 49ers make another run and they're bringing in Christian McCaffrey now? Nick Bosa gets healthy and he comes back. Trent Williams gets healthy and he comes back. And, this team that's dealing with so many injuries in so many key spots gets healthy. And if they make a run in what is a weakened NFC West right now, Rams don't look like the Super Bowl team they were last year. Cardinals barely scraped away a victory last night. And at one point, they were very well ahead in that game and almost let the Saints claw their way back into it. And, I mean, I'm very curious to see what happens with Trey Lance now. I'm assuming after this year, maybe they just move on from Jimmy G and give Trey Lance the reins. But if Jimmy G leads this team on another run to a potential another NFC championship, how can you even argue letting him go and having your quarterback, who hasn't played like meaningful football in almost 3 years, it feels like now, because he only had in terms of like playing a full season, I guess I should say, because he didn't play a full season last year. He had a couple of games here and there last year, did not make it through very much of this season. He skipped out on the COVID season in college. His last full season of play was 2019. It's going to be 2023 next year when he gets things going. That's insane. And I don't really know what to make of that. So 49ers fans, let me know, how are you feeling right now? Obviously, I'm sure you're excited, but what questions does this bring up to you now? Are the 49ers all in, and are they just going to let Trey Lance take it all over once the season wraps up if things go really well? I mean, it's 50-50 right now. I don't really know what to make of the 49ers team right now. Some people think they're a top 5 unit. Other people, they're middle of the pack. I'm more along like the lines of they're somewhere within the middle of the pack there, in between like the bottom and the middle. They're not like smack in the middle, but I don't know. This is a crazy scenario. I didn't expect for a team like the 49ers to be the one that's going all in on a running back like Christian McCaffrey. I really thought, especially because, you lost your starting quarterback in Trey Lance. I would have expected it to be the Bills or maybe the Rams if they're really trying to make a big splash to get their team back on the right track. Maybe a Kansas City Chiefs team to do something like that if they could figure out a way to pay him too. Just very surprising to me, but exciting because I'm really curious to see what Kyle Shanahan can do with Christian McCaffrey on his roster. So that's it for me. Panthers fans, I'm sorry for you guys. A tough year. I don't really see much positive going forward, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully you get a good pick, you find your quarterback of the future, and you can start looking towards next year and beyond. But 49ers fans, how excited you guys? I want to hear what you have to say. I appreciate you all for watching. I'll catch you guys in another video next time. Have a good one.